Good evening, good afternoon, and good morning, you fantastic people wherever you are. Welcome to Chibi Reads Reddit. I'm your host, DoomChibi99. Today's subreddit is mainly Best of Redditor updates, but I have a Would I Be the Dingus story ready to go just for you guys, and it's juicy. So sit back, get cozy, grab a drink, and let's read. No contact with my parents for 24 years because they tricked me into giving up my baby. Would I be the dingus for refusing to see them before my mother expires? I was 15 when I got pregnant, 16 when I had my baby. Immediately after giving birth, my mother had forms for me to sign, telling me that they were hospital admin forms. She was my mother, I believed her. They were actually adoption papers. My baby was taken right out of my arms, and I didn't see him again for 20 years. The father of my baby and I were still together when I gave birth. His parents were not jumping for joy that we were kids having a baby, yet they were all in to help us. They helped me to get a job as a waitress in my boyfriend's uncle's restaurant. I worked nights and weekends. My boyfriend worked in his dad's auto parts store. Every dollar we made, we were saving for the baby. It wasn't much, but we were committed to the family that we had started. My parents were not so supportive and kicked me out as soon as I told them. They harassed me constantly to get a get-out-of-baby-free card, then demanded I have the baby adopted. Once my dad attacked my boyfriend on the street and my mother accosted his mother in the middle of the mall, I stopped talking to them for months. Then one day they called and said that they had a change of heart. They didn't want to lose me and the baby. I was wary, but hopeful. My boyfriend's parents encouraged me to give them a chance. We all regretted it in the end. When I went into labor, I was at my parents' house. They took me to the hospital. They told me they couldn't get a hold of my boyfriend or his parents. They promised me that they would keep trying until they got someone on the phone. They lied. I left the hospital heartbroken and betrayed. I went to my boyfriend and his parents and we grieved together. Days later, my parents had me taken from their home and forced me back to their house. I ran away and they dragged me back again and again. They finally let me go when I tried to unalive myself. I hated them and I never wanted to see them again. When I was 22, my boyfriend and I got married. It wasn't a grand event. We were married at the courthouse and went back to my in-laws for a backyard barbecue reception. A year later, we welcomed our second child into the world. The trauma from the events the first time I gave birth hit us both hard, especially my husband. I would not have had it any other way, but he still demanded to be in the delivery room with me. I wanted my mother-in-law there with us too. His dad and siblings waited on guard in the waiting room and outside the hospital. Overkill? Maybe. But we felt safer knowing that there were people there for us, making sure nothing happened. Smart move! I had given birth to a total of 4 babies. We loved each and every one of them, and yet our hearts ached and yearned for our firstborn. Every day I thought of him and hoped that he went to have a good family that loved him. Every year on his birthday, my husband and I would buy him a Matchbox car, and I would bake him a rhubarb sponge pudding. We had no idea if he even liked rhubarb sponge pudding and Matchbox cars, or if he even knew what they were, but we did it anyway. My husband isn't a fan of cake, so I imagined our son also wasn't a fan. We would stick a candle in the sponge, sing the song, wish him a long and happy life, and take a photo of us and the kids around the rhubarb sponge pudding. It may seem stupid to some, but to keep that wound open, but it was how we coped with his loss. 4 years ago, I was out of town with my oldest daughter at a softball camp when our firstborn showed up at home. My husband called to tell me to get home immediately. He didn't tell me why, but I could hear something in his voice I'd never heard before. Thinking something was wrong, I pulled my daughter out of camp and we drove home. I can't quite find the words or express how I felt at what happened when we arrived home. Today we are in regular contact with our eldest. We talk often, video calls mostly. We like to see him, and he likes to see us when we talk. He games with his younger brothers and annoys the heck out of his sister, and they adore him. He was adopted by an older couple that couldn't have kids and was an only child. He loves having siblings. He has spent Christmas with us every year since, and he came back into our lives and stays for a month. For his birthday, we all fly to him and stay for a week. I imagine correctly. He doesn't like cake. He doesn't like rhubarb either, so I bake him a peach sponge pudding. We also fly to him on the anniversary week of his parents' deaths. They died within days of each other. His father found us years before when our son first told his parents that he would like to meet us one day. I'm so grateful to the man and woman that adopted him. They gave him a good life with lots of love and raised a good son. I wish I could have known them. Thank them. A few weeks ago, my dad contacted my in-laws. My mother is dying. They have regrets and want to repair our relationship before she goes. Every part of me is against it. They can both choke to death on their regrets for all I care. There is not 1 ounce of me even a little bit willing to give them that. I hate them for what they did to us, for stealing our son, for taking him right out of my arms. All that time lost because of their cruelty and their selfishness. I hate them. My husband has no love for them at all, but he thinks it would be a good idea for me to show them how well we've done, how good our life has been without them. He wants them to meet our kids, all of our kids. He wants them to come face to face with the child they took from us. He wants to rub in their faces all they've missed out on and leave them with new regrets. I don't think that they deserve to lay their eyes on such goodness. But I think of my son and the good life he had. The good people that gave him that life. I can't say we would have been able to give him that. Who knows what life a couple of teenage parents would have been able to provide. Maybe we would have had the life we have if we had kept him. Maybe not. My father-in-law says probably not. People who mean the most to me vary in their opinions about the situation, but they know us. They know more of our history than I wrote here. I'm hoping for impartially from Reddit, would I be the dingus if I don't give my parents a chance? Hell no, OP! You're not the dingus! Your parents are evil! I mean, come on! They take your kid away and you don't get a chance to, hold them for a while? It's like, dude! They don't deserve to see your kids. I mean, yeah, it would be nice to rub it in their faces before they pass, but still, don't see them. They don't deserve it! Not the dingus! My ex-boyfriend is harassing me. And just a quick disclaimer, there is stalking involved, so you've been warned. Yeah. Sorry, I just needed to vent. About half a month ago, I broke up with my ex after we had been together for about 9 months. Basically because of his controlling behavior made me feel too confined and uncomfortable, but apparently he can't escape it. Since the breakup, I have been bombarded with messages, voice messages, emails, and phone calls. I had to block him everywhere, only to be harassed again from newly created accounts, sometimes pretending to be someone else. I live in a village with less than 2,000 people and am active in local clubs. He comes from a town about 20,000 people, about 20 minutes away. 3 weeks ago, during a public event with my club, he was there, and apart from a brief comment that I should smile more, left me alone. However, my friends later told me that he had been following and staring at me the entire time. Okay, somewhat understandable since it was still pretty fresh. Last weekend, we had a big tent festival. Editor's note, it's like a mini Oktoberfest. That lasted the whole weekend, where I was a waitress. He was there too and completely drunk, both days. On Saturday, we even had a brief chat, and I felt like he was doing better, but that was apparently just a front. Throughout the day, he kept his eye on me and followed me. He only wanted to order drinks from me, which annoyed me, and I told him to leave me alone and go to someone else. When all of his friends wanted to leave, he absolutely refused to go with them. I begged him to leave, and he promised me he would, but in the end, he stayed and continued to follow me, even after my shift ended. I had been really looking forward to the festival, but because of him, I had to go home early because I felt so uncomfortable. Sunday was even worse. He was there alone and got drunk by himself. He didn't speak to me during the day, but he sent me 3 letters through other servers. I didn't read them. Several people asked me who the creepy guy sitting alone at the table staring at me was. I was incredibly embarrassed. On Sunday evening, there was only about 20 people left, and we were having a last drink. When I went outside to the restroom trailer, he secretly followed me to the and tried to corner me. Fortunately, 2 of my friends noticed and followed us, and I fled back inside while they persuaded him to go home. I am incredibly grateful to them, because I don't know what he would have done otherwise. Maybe he really just wanted to talk, but he's lied to me so many times now that I can't be sure. I'm usually someone who tries to get along with everyone, and that includes ex-partners. I would have been open to at least a friendly relationship with him, but the way he's behaved so far makes that impossible. The thought of ever getting involved with another man disgusts me. I used to enjoy meeting new people and having snoo-snoo. But now, I feel tainted and paranoid. I don't dare go out alone anymore. I have trouble sleeping and double lock all the locks at night. I'm afraid that if he gets drunk again, he'll come up with some stupid idea and show up at my house. He makes me feel like he's unpredictable because he constantly lies and twists things. At the same time, I feel like this is all coldly calculated and that he's manipulating everyone around him. For example, he told my best friend he actually didn't want to come to the festival and that it was his friends who wanted him to go. If I lived in the city, I would have seriously considered moving, but I have my roots here in this village. I find it so unfair that I have to deal with this. The whole thing is stressing me out so much that I have my first cold sore outbreak in 5 years. I've cried more in the last month than I did of all last year because I'm so emotionally drained. I've already talked to his friends about it, but they all just say that it will get better. I don't think that they understand how extreme his behavior is. My best friend had called him several times to explain that he should leave me alone, but it always sounds like my ex just sees this as temporary. Whew, long post. As I said, I just wanted to vent. I'm sure some of you have had similar experiences. Hugs to you. It's really not good feeling. I'm open to advice. OP posted an update, and it was just basically how they've been feeling and how they can't use this Reddit account anymore, and I feel for them. I really do. I kind of had an ex like this. Then OP posted another update 3 months later. Hey everyone. Maybe some of you remember my post from a few months ago where I vented about how my ex-boyfriend just wouldn't leave me alone and was harassing me both online and in real life. Unfortunately, it still took me a while after the post to take legal action, partially because I still hoped that he might eventually back off, partially because I was a bit apprehensive about taking such a step. Going to court makes you face the reality of the situation, but in the end, I had no other choice. I don't want to go into too much detail about the circumstances, but I'll get to the point. We were able to obtain a restraining order. I've decided not to file charges for now. I don't want to deal with this more than absolutely necessary, and the restraining order alone was already a huge amount of work. A criminal case would be even more demanding. By the way, a police warning, which some of you mentioned under my original post, does not exist in Austria. Okay, so we're in Austria. So just in case anyone else from Austria is in a similar situation, the Violence Protection Center is there for cases of violence and harassment like this. They're government funded and have offices in every federal state. The phone counseling and subsequent support with the legal steps were great. The court issued the order very quickly after my application, within just a few days, which surprised me given the summer lull. Unfortunately, I can't use this account as my main account anymore because my stalker knows it. So if anyone stumbles across this in the future, here's a little shout out to the team r/digital streetwork. Editor's note, a German project that provides support on digital platforms. They're there to talk when you need someone and are happy to help and advice. In Austria, besides the Violence Protection Centers, there's other support programs, which OP has linked. Even though this issue is hopefully over, I'm still not feeling completely okay. I still have sleep problems, especially nightmares, and particularly when I sleep alone. I can't leave the house alone without worrying that he might suddenly show up. Every walk from the office to the parking lot is a small challenge, and I'm constantly looking over my shoulder in public. A voice in my head tells me that my friends might be tired of talking about all this, even though they assure me that they're not. I'm paranoid and anxious, and I've lost trust in strangers, especially men. When I meet someone new, I feel like I have to disclose this baggage as a disclaimer right away. I can't get into a serious relationship because, first, I don't want to burden anyone with my mental state. Second, I'm scared because my stalker might find out and hurt my new partner. And third, because I'm incredibly paranoid and see even small things that never used to bother me as red flags that someone might be like him. I wish I could go back to that instant bubble where people who were broken like this don't exist. Even if that made me naive, I was happier. I wish I could get back my openness and basic trust in other people. I liked myself more back then. I'm working on myself, of course, and trying to do things I used to enjoy, and surrounding myself with people who are good for me. But I think it will still take a while before I'm back to where I was before this happened. Whew! Another long text. Sending you all a big hug, especially to those who commented on my original post. If you didn't save my life, at the very least, you saved me from a lot of headaches. Edit. I just realized that at the end of my post, it sounds rather negative. I just want to add that overall, I'm definitely doing better than I was when the harassment was at its worst. Since the restraining order, I feel more free, and the issues with falling asleep and sleeping through the night have mostly gone away. I have a strong network of friends, and I'm looking forward to the future with a positive outlook. I'm sure the biggest factor is simply time. Reading books on the topic certainly helps, but the few weeks of not hearing from him have made me feel less stressed. Things will get better. Is this normal D&D behavior, or is it really rude? By Satan is not a freaking pogo stick. That's a freaking good name! I have never played before at all. Total noob. But I wanted to learn because all my friends play, and it was the only way to hang out regularly. These people have known each other for several decades and have been gaming together for most of that time, while I only came into the picture recently. They brought me into their campaign somewhere in the middle. I never really got the story. From my character creation onward, everyone else was making decisions about my character. After a few sessions, another player asked the DM for permission to make changes to my character, and the DM said yes. Nobody asked me. I was just informed that I had to choose new spells. And in-game, I never got to actually play my character. Everyone else got their roleplay in, as loudly as possible, and ran right over anything I tried to do. The DM frequently ignored my attempts or accepted someone else's play, and then told me what my character was doing. I've never felt so left out among my favorite people. I went home crying after many sessions. None of it was fun. Is it normal? Is this how D&D groups are? Or is this just really rude behavior and they ought to know better? I am a total noob in D&D myself, but I can tell you right now, that is not normal. It really isn't. And then OP posted an update. I want to thank everyone who commented on my previous post and helped me realize that no, my friend's behavior was not how D&D is meant to be, and I wasn't crazy for anything, but not having spoken up sooner. Also, a huge thank you to everyone who pointed out that people can be great friends and crap D&D partners. Sorry for the delay in the update, but I just got my dates wrong, and we had session 0 for our new campaign this past weekend. I got the okay from our new DM for this campaign to have some words with everyone before we got started, and let everyone in the group chat know this would be happening. The only real issue is that the DM for the previous campaign wasn't available to make it, but some of the others said that they fill her in so I didn't have to do the whole thing twice. As I mentioned, at least in some comments/replies before, one of my big issues is that suddenly nobody in this group understands me when the conversation turns to D&D. So I shifted the context to kink community rules, because everyone in our group is familiar with that and put everything in terms of boundaries, consent, agency, and safety. Lo and behold, they heard me this time! I started by acknowledging I should have said something sooner, but I was scared/intimidated, thrown for a loop by how some of my friends were suddenly very different at the table in any other situation, and that I do tend to assume I'm the problem and have a tendency to shut down and lose my ability to speak when people are constantly talking over me. Shout out to the Dungeon Dudes video on tips for neurodivergent players for helping me realize that this was happening to me. One of those friends was completely shocked at the idea she changed it at the table, but another confirmed that our previous DM becomes a different critter. Then when I went to say that the last campaign I had felt uncomfortable, unsafe, and at times excruciating, that I left several sessions crying. You thought I would have slapped them! So, the boundaries I laid out were as follows. Nobody gets to play my character but me. I should never have to say I'm not that kind of bard because nobody should be saying what my character is doing. They all totally agreed. 2. My character is mine to play, and if it doesn't fit their idea of what the race/class ought to be, then they can roll their own and leave mine alone. Again, they agreed. I'm allowed my roleplay moments. Nobody, least of all the DM, should override my roleplay moments, because someone else was faster, louder, and they wanted to say something for any other reason. Much nodding before I started complaining about us having been railroaded into an ending in that campaign. Nobody should ask the DM for permission to make changes to my character without asking me. And of course, the DM should never give such permission. This I had to turn on our new DM because he was the one who had gotten permission to have his warlock give my bard some warlock spells. I was included in the group chat, but nobody ever said, "Hey, Snake Wings, is this something you want?" And by the time I got back into that chat after working, it had all been decided, and I didn't feel like I had the right to say no, or even say that I was uncomfortable with it. This broke me into tears again because the lack of any care for my consent or agency really hit me hard. New DM apologized and said, really, he had just been overzealous in coaching the noob. Everyone else kind of had an ooh moment. They hadn't known that happened. Is this how D&D usually is? Lastly, I get the same rights and respect as everyone else at the table. Thanks again to the Dungeon Dudes video. I found a great way to word all of it. Just because I can't speak up and as fast as the rest of you doesn't mean I have nothing to say, and just because I can't yell over you doesn't mean I don't deserve to be heard. I also pointed out that they do quiet down for someone else in the group. Not sure how to describe their reaction. Chastened might be the good word? I don't know. To wrap it up, I agree that it's on me to speak up, but because that is very hard for me to do in my own way, there's only one way I know I can do it. I'll revert to kink rules and call yellow. That means everyone stops. We talk about what just happened, make sure everyone is okay, and then go back to the game. Also, the first time I leave a session crying, I'll put in the chat and make sure everyone knows so we can talk about things and make adjustments before the next session. But the second time it happens, I'll tell the chat and then I'm out, because if it's still happening, I'm not safe playing with them. By this point, everyone was all in and on my side. That's good! So, that was it. And there was a general agreement and much. Please tell us when we're being buttheads so we can stop. Also, the other quiet player that I said everyone made room for pointed out that they don't actually always make room for them to speak, and they had left many sessions very frustrated as well. Oof. Session 0. I had never filled out my own character sheet before, and I didn't understand what class-based saving throws were, or why. So I asked the new DM, and he started trying to explain what a saving throw was. Like I hadn't been making saving throws throughout the last campaign, usually sitting right beside him. And I had to stop him and call yellow and point out that this is the thing where suddenly I'm speaking like the Swedish chef or something, and nobody can understand what I'm asking. Would you believe it took 3 experienced players talking around it for a few minutes to get to the saving throws listed for your class get you proficiency bonus added to your roll? Shake my head. Since it went so well, I did tell him I'd take this issue to Reddit, and the general consensus was that they were being buttheads. A couple of them said to thank y'all, because apparently an outside perspective was what was needed. So we're getting a new campaign underway, and we play every 2 weeks. So we'll see how that goes. Thanks again to everyone who commented, and the ones who called me out on my part as well. TLDR, I used the kink community-based language to get my points across and cried a bit and promised to speak up any time that I felt that way again, and there was much apologizing and recognizing that they had been the ones they'd been, in one person's words, super freaking rude. Only the DM from the last campaign wasn't there to hear it. Looks like we've reached the end of today's video, but fret not, I'll be back tomorrow with more Reddit stories just for you. Want to get notified of the next video? Tap the bell icon. Want to subscribe? Tap the button. It's completely free. Anyways, that's it for today's video. Thank you for watching, and until next time, catch you later, my Chibi Dominators.